What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today I'm bringing you my final 2021 mock draft. It's been a long time coming, but we have finally arrived. This video will be going up 24 hours to the dot before we finally get to the actual NFL draft itself. So I'm fired up to bring you this video. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video and my final mock draft. If you do, please consider hitting that like button. It would mean the world to me. And if you're new to the channel, like sports, and are excited for the draft, please consider subscribing and comment away down in the comment section. Where was I right? Where was I wrong? Who's your favorite team? Who do you want them to take in the first 3 rounds? This is a 3-round mock, so I'm giving you my thoughts on the complete day 1 and day 2 portions of the 2021 NFL draft. Additionally, it's not on the Draft Network. I'm using the PFF Draft Simulator because I wanted to include some trades. They're only going to be in the first round, and really they're kind of done after the first 15 picks. After that, I just keep it chalk. There's going to be trades throughout the rest of it, but at that point, it's just too much to try to navigate. But we are going to have some trades, and I'm excited to bring it your way. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and begin the draft. As always, Trevor Lawrence is going 1. Zach Wilson is going number 2. Feel good about that. And, you know, I'm gonna do it. I am actually going to do it. I'm going to put Mac Jones going number 3 to the 49ers. Partially because I feel like if Jones goes 3, there's more incentive for teams to move up if it's Fields and Lance still available, as opposed to, you know, Lance and Mac Jones. Yeah, but nonetheless, I'll talk about that more as we go on. But it feels like Mac Jones is the guy. He's the one getting all the buzz right now. So I would go Justin Fields here, and they've narrowed it down to Jones or Lance. I'd go Lance, but it looks like it's going to be Jones, which is interesting. Then what do you do with Jimmy Garoppolo? Because, spoiler, we're going to get to it here shortly, but I have the Pats taking a QB. So, you know, as much of a storybook, you know, reunion as that would be, Jimmy G going back to Bill Belichick in New England, it's not always how it plays out in sports. And I think teams like Chicago, the Washington football team, and maybe a handful of others are going to start making their phone calls to Jimmy G and his agent about his services if he is released. Because if the 49ers take Mac Jones, he feels like a week 1 ready to go kind of guy. And I don't see the need of holding on to Jimmy G and his $20+ million cap hit this year. But nonetheless, we're talking the draft. Mac Jones is going to be the pick in this mock draft. We'll see. On to the Falcons here at pick number 4. This is going to be the first trade. And all these trades I built are based off the trade value chart. So if you have any problem with one team you think in your eyes gets fleeced or doesn't give up enough or gives up too little, go to that chart. It's literally within a handful of points if it's off at all. This one's pretty much spot on. So a 1, a 2, next year's 1 from Denver to Atlanta for the 4th overall pick. And in this spot, I think Denver makes the trade because Justin Fields is their guy. I think of all the QBs that could be available that would incentivize them to move up, Justin Fields is the one they're looking at, other than obviously like Lawrence and Wilson. I don't think they will unload the ammunition to go get Mac Jones. And I'm not sure Trey Lance is as good a fit for that offense as Fields is. Though in a lot of ways they can be similar. I just think Fields is a more accurate passer. And plus, day 1 impact. This is a team that's ready to go. This is a well-built roster. Why wait on someone like Lance who's going to need time to develop when you go get Fields, who, dare I say it, is an upgrade over Drew Lock the second he steps onto the the premises there at Denver. So Fields going for 4 picks, 4 QBs. Let the madness ensue. And because Kyle Pitts is still on the board, I haven't been the pick here for Cincy. Pitts has long been the pick for the Bengals in my eyes, but a lot of people have had Pitts going 4 to Atlanta. But in this case, Atlanta trades back. And speaking of that trade for Atlanta, their cap situation's not good, so it makes a ton of sense to trade back and get players on smaller contracts. Also, if you want to win now, and it seems like that's what Arthur Smith wants to do, you get an extra pick this year and an extra first-round pick next year. And that's how you really plug away those holes and try to fill the gaps where you've had expensive players leave in free agency. Now moving on, we have the Miami Dolphins on the clock. I'm going to stick with Jamar Chase here. An outside guy. They could use an inside weapon, a slot player. Do have Jakeem Grant. Albert Wilson's coming back after opting out in 2020. Will Fuller's just on a 1-year deal. And if they do their job right, they're going to find different ways to get guys in different roles. I really hate the idea of people only playing on the outside. Like the Cardinals did not use DeAndre Hopkins to his fullest potential because they just put him on the left side of the field, left him there. And we'll talk about Tylan Wallace later on. Same thing, just at the college level, stuck on the right side. Use guys in different roles. Chase is a good separator. He is athletic. He can make contested catches. Play him in the slot every once in a while. Play Will Fuller as a field stretcher from the slot. Hopefully Miami does something like that. Then we get to another trade, and this is where, as I kind of alluded to, New England is going to move up, give up obviously the 15th pick number 46, and then pick number 120, and in return they're going to get 7 and 153 to even it all out in regards to that trade chart sheet. So now with the Patriots moving up to 7, hold on, I got to put it on forced trade. Nonetheless, now with the Patriots on the clock at pick number 7, they go get Trey Lance. And you have Cam Newton. He can start this year. Maybe he'll even take a step forward compared to where he was last year. You assume he doesn't get COVID. He'll have a full offseason, have better weapons around him, yada, yada, yada. And then it allows Lance to have that, redshirt year, quote unquote, sit for a year, learn from a player who has a lot of the similar, strengths and weaknesses in Cam Newton. And a lot of the same things we said about Cam, we say about Trey Lance. So I think it's a match made in heaven. And again, if Jimmy G becomes cut, maybe New England still goes after Jimmy Garoppolo and Jimmy G's the starter. Newton's just the backup just in case something happens. Jimmy G is injury prone. And then Lance, taking that redshirt years, the third stringer. I think that's still in play as well. So still plenty of options. And if the 49ers do go Jones, I think Jimmy G becomes available probably by the end of the week or beginning of next week. So next up, Carolina gets gifted Penei Sewell. In a lot of people's eyes, the best non-quarterback. And even if he's not the number one non-quarterback in your eyes, he's top 3. He's right up there with the likes of Patrick Surtain or Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, however you put it. Sewell is going to be top 3, top 5 non-QB in this class. I'm not sure Greg Little is the answer long-term at left tackle. Sewell feels like a restart and just overall a better player. So love that pick. Also, you can kick him inside to guard if you want to give Little some more time. Next up, we get to the Falcons here at 9. And this is why I also think Atlanta should trade back. Like, you could take Pitts at 4, and that's great, but you have so much money tied up into that offense. Pitts is going to make a lot of money as the 4th overall pick, and your offense isn't why you're losing games. It's your defense, right? Like, it's very bad. So go out there and get a guy who's going to fit Dean Pees' defense. Pees wants to send these crazy exotic blitzes. He wants to give you different looks. Never wants you to see the same type of blitz twice in a game, right? Like, Pees is a mastermind. That's what he does. 3-4. I think Parson fits everything Dean Pees wants to do to a T. Big upgrade there, and Atlanta's not done making moves here. Spoiler alert, they're going to keep addressing that defense. And if the draft were to play out like I have it in my mind in this mock draft, this Atlanta team could easily be second in the NFC South and a playoff or wild card caliber team just behind the Buccaneers in the NFC South. Then we get to the Cowboys at 10. So we've had trades, done some different things, but some things won't change. And I think Patrick Surtain is a great fit in Dallas. CB1 in my eyes, high floor, just a B+ caliber guy across the board. So like Surtain, CB1 for that team helps out the defense a ton. And I think defenses, Cowboys, just like the Falcons, they're going to address a lot of defense in this mock draft. Then we're going to get to our last trade we're going to have here, and it's going to be with the Minnesota Vikings. And it's because the Vikings just have an abundance of later round picks. So I like the idea of them being aggressive, right? So in this scenario, Minnesota will give up 14, 90, as well as pick number 134 in return for 11. And again, it's about even on the trade chart, maybe a point or two off. But what you do here is you give up one of the 2 3s you have and one of the 3 4s you have to move up 3 spots and get your guy. And then if you're Dave Gettleman, extra ammunition. Again, sorry, I forgot to put forced trade on. PFF is interesting with the trades they go through. Again, using the trade value chart. If you don't like the trades, blame it on the chart. But in this spot, the Minnesota Vikings get their left tackle of the future in Rashawn Slater. Slam dunk pick. It's worth a 3rd. It's worth a 4th. Solidify the biggest question mark on that team moving forward with a top-end Pro Bowl level guy in Rashawn Slater. Then we get to the Eagles at 12. Easy peasy. Devonta Smith. Separator. Smooth. Easy to watch. We worry about his frame a little bit, but if he gets open and he has good hands, you have a role on an NFL team somewhere, and this is a wide receiver needy team. Feels like a match made in heaven. Then we get to the Chargers at 13. My pick is going to stay the same here. Christian Darrisaw just makes too much sense. Really love what he did last year at Virginia Tech. Best run blocking tackle in college football according to PFF. And then also a very good pass blocker and plenty of room to continue to grow there. You get the blindside protector for Justin Herbert. Again, feels like a perfect fit. Then we get to the Giants here at 14. And really considered Elijah Vera Tucker. It feels like he's going to go higher than teams or the media is anticipating. But considering in past mock drafts, I've had the Giants here at 11. Go Jalen Waddle because Rashawn Slater was off the board. I feel a little hypocritical if I did anything else. Additionally, there is good value on the interior of the offensive line later on in the draft, and now you have an extra third and an extra fourth to try to address those positions. So I think you go with the upside skill position player. I don't know if that's Dave Gettleman's idea with this pick, if you'd actually do that, but you get Jalen Waddle, pair him up with Kenny Golladay. You still have Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, Kyle Rudolph. We've said it 1,000 times. Saquon Barkley. You know, that feels like you're putting the weapons around Daniel Jones and taking away those excuses. And like I said, you have a lot of depth on the interior of the offensive line later on in the draft. So address it then, as opposed to going Elijah Vera Tucker. Like, again, we'll get to it. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Additionally, got Nate Soldier coming back from opting out. You already have Andrew Thomas. You have Pete, who he's maybe a little too big to play guard, but you might have to. I don't know. They're already going to have to shuffle around some of those tackles, try to make some moves there. So really, it's the interior of the offensive line that I think needs to be addressed, and you can do that later on. But we'll get to that. And then here is where I have Elijah Vera Tucker going. This feels like a rebuild process, right? Like the Lions start with BPA, and in this case, Elijah Vera Tucker might be that. Coach Dan Campbell biting kneecaps. Elijah Vera Tucker, you win it in the trenches. And plus you get extra value. Though I will say, I would love to see this the other way around. I really contemplated just saying, you know what, Gettleman's going to go offensive line. Waddle's the slot wide receiver that the Lions don't have right now. He can make it easy for Jared Goff underneath, plays after or short passes where he can do a lot after the catch. But he's also a field stretcher, open up things for Tyrell Williams and Perriman as well. But I think the Giants have to go Waddle, try to go IOL later, and in that case, the Lions take Elijah Vera Tucker, boost up that offensive line. That could certainly improve. Then we get to the Cardinals at 16. Really, they're in a good spot too, because I could see them really liking Jalen Waddle. And here at 16, it feels like, at least in this mock, they're set to get Waddle, or the guy I'm going to actually give them, J.C. Horn, who I've had them mocked taking in a handful of mocks now. Feels like another match made in heaven, man press corner, high upside, position of need, etc., etc., etc. Then we get to the Las Vegas Raiders at pick number 17. Gonna stick with Tevin Jenkins here. Feels like other players like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Trevon Moehrig might be in play. They could reach for someone, I don't even know if it's necessarily a reach, but Jamin Davis could certainly be in play here, maybe a little earlier than I take him. But they need a right tackle, and we saw what Josh Jacobs was without a good offensive line in front of him, and it wasn't Pro Bowl level running back play. So you created some holes on the offensive line. Tevin Jenkins is a mauler in the run game. I also see some potential for him to continue to get better as a pass blocker. It fills a need. He is a good young talent, and it fits what the Raiders want to do up front. So I like the pick a lot. But again, this could be Joke. It could be Parsons if he falls here. It could be Moehrig. It could be Jamin Davis as well. Then we get to the Dolphins at 18, and I'm actually going to stick with the player I've been giving them. I liked Zaven Collins in my past few mocks for the idea of him being a potential inside linebacker that could blitz or, splitting snaps inside and out. He put on some weight. It looks like he might just be an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. The Dolphins honestly could use a couple. If Andrew Van Ginkel doesn't work out, they need two edges, not just one. And we'll continue to talk about that later on once it gets to round 3. But Zaven Collins, if he becomes just an edge rusher in a 3-4, he can play in space. He can do plenty and be a plus level coverage outside linebacker, and the upside is there as a pass rusher. Really like the fit, and I think he's worthy of being the 18th overall pick. I think he's that good of a football player. Then we get to the Washington football team, and this is where Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I think, just fits that defense perfectly. Love to see this fit for Joke. There's only, 4-3 teams are going to be the ones that use Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to his fullest potential. There might be a 3-4 team that takes him. And I think that would be a little unfortunate. I think a 4-3 suits Joke the best. And I think for Washington football team, it allows you to move on from Landon Collins at the end of this season. It also just gives you a big boost at linebacker over guys like Cole Holcomb and John Bostic, among others. So fits on both sides. It takes an already top-notch defense, maybe the best in football, just to a league of its own in a lot of ways. And plus, I think their positions of need outside of linebacker / safety can be addressed a little later on. So I like the value there for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at 19. And here we go. This one's going to be a little different here with Chicago at 20. And I thought about making it Sam Cosmi, which I've been doing. But instead, I'm going to go Walker Little. I know I'm higher on Walker Little than not everybody, but a lot. But I think Chicago's just kind of stuck in no man's land. Where right here at 20, do you go edge? I could totally see that. Maybe Joe Tryon as a Robert Quinn replacement. Khalil Mack's getting older. That's in play. Javon Margs, that way you could play Eddie Jackson full-time at strong safety. It's a possibility, but neither one of those picks are really sexy. I almost prefer the idea of getting a guy when he's healthy. He's a first-round caliber tackle. You put him as the blindside protector for Andy Dalton or whoever long-term is under center or / in the shotgun for Chicago. Allows you to move on from Charles Leno or kick him over to right tackle, get rid of Bobby Massey, save some money, etc., etc., etc. I just think talent-wise, if you're picking based off of talent, Walker Little is the only tackle I would feel comfortable with here at pick number 20. All the other ones, it feels like a bit of a reach compared to their talent level and where the pick is. I know Little comes with plenty of question marks given his injury history. I haven't seen him play in 2 years. This is not a pick that Bears fans will probably like, but it's one where if Little stays healthy, you'll look back and be like, yeah, well, we were wrong, and that was a slam dunk pick. And ultimately, the Bears are kind of stuck in no man's land, so there's not much more you can really do here besides Little. So a lot of the same could be said about the next guy. I think it's a little less of an injury concern, though. The Colts take Jalen Phillips. Had this in a handful of mocks as well. You worry about the concussions, of course, but he's a day one instant impact. I feel like if a team is going to take Jalen Phillips, they want him to be a day one starter. The Colts could certainly use him in that role. Fits a 4-3 to a T. Super athletic. Hasn't even played that much. Like last year at Miami was his only full year of playing at the college football level. So he still needs some more reps, and he has some room to grow and get better. And he's already, in my eyes, edge one in this class, which is crazy to think that he's going to continue to get better. Which, I mean, all these guys are going to get better, but there's still a steep curve there for Jalen Phillips. And if you're Indianapolis, sprint the card in if he's available at 21. Tennessee Titans on the clock at pick number 22. Sticking with Rashad Bateman here. Feels like a really nice compliment to A.J. Brown, especially if you're getting 2019 Bateman. Whew, that is a nasty wide receiver duo. You have Josh Reynolds playing from the slot. They'll address tight end later on in this mock. You rebuild that offense from losing Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith this free agency, and instead you put that money on the defensive side of the football, completing a well-rounded team. Next up, the Jets on the clock at pick number 23, and I've said it a number of times. Greg Newsome's is a really good fit, but you got your QB of the future. Go take a risk. No back injuries, no question marks about his injury past and his playing condition. Caleb Farley's CB1 in almost everybody's eyes. So in this spot, you have 2 first-round picks. Go take a gamble. If Farley stays healthy, it's totally worth him being the 23rd pick and you taking him in this spot. And if it doesn't work out, it's definitely upsetting. But then you also look back at this class and say, yeah, but we got Zach Wilson, so it wasn't a complete bummer of a first round. And actually, I lied to you earlier. I have one more trade. I totally can't believe I forgot this one. I am a Steelers fan, so it's kind of neglectful that I forgot about this. And I also said that the Falcons are not done making moves. What if Atlanta traded back in the first round, right? Like they get those picks from Denver, and now they can use some of those assets to then get back into the first round. So they give up pick 35 at the top of the second round, pick 68, and then pick number 148 in exchange for 148, and then Pittsburgh gives them 128. So here's the trade. Matches up on the trade value chart. And now at pick number 24, a team that needs a safety so bad gets the guy who's by far the best in the class. That, to me, is like an ideal first round. You trade down from 4 to 9, get some extra assets, and you go be aggressive with those extra assets. Trade back into the first round from pick 35 and go get another great top 15 to 20 player in this class. You get Micah Parsons, who fits Dean Pease's defense to a T, and then you get Trevon Moehrig, who could do whatever you need him to do at the safety spot. That's an A-caliber first round for Atlanta, in my opinion. And because Trevon Moehrig is off the board, the Jags have to pivot a little bit. Could go tackle, but instead I'm going to wait to save that for the top of round 2. And I'm going to give him Christian Barmore. This is your Taven Bryan replacement, big upgrade, interior disruptor, right? They're switching that 3-4. And I think Barmore in that defense is probably more of a 3-4N in that case. And then you have K'Lavon Chaisson, who I think is due for a big year 2. I'm telling you, changing up that defense, K'Lavon Chaisson is going to make a name for himself this year. And Josh Allen, who's already a stud at the other rushing outside linebacker position. And then Barmore in between them on the interior. And you sign guys like Roy Robertson Harris. Come on. Like, that pass rush is going to get back to where we're referring to the Jags as Saxonville. Like, this is how you rebuild a team. And this is a team that, picking first overall easily could be a 7-win team next year. Maybe even 8 wins now that we're playing a 17-game schedule. I think this is going to vastly improve team. Still a lot to work with. Still a lot of holes to fix. But Barmore really completes that pass rush for the Jags. And Barmore is actually who I had Cleveland taken here at 26, so it's this cascade of dominoes falling. I had Moehrig originally going to the Jags at 25, and because they take Barmore, he's not on the clock at 26. The Browns now have to pivot, and this is actually kind of good because I've had a hard time getting Jamin Davis in the first round, and it feels like he's almost a lock to go in the first round. This is your long-term answer in the linebacking core. Super rangy, still a steep learning curve. Only had the 1 year as a starter at Kentucky and got better week by week. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. Love this pick. And then you go IDL in round 2, which is what they are going to do in my mock draft. And then we get to the first of 2 first-round picks for the Baltimore Ravens. I'll kind of talk about the Orlando Brown trade once we get to 31. Hadn't made a video about it, so I'll talk about it then instead. So Ravens here at 27. So in this spot, I originally had Azeez Ojulari as the pick, but some medical concerns have risen over the past couple of days. A degenerative knee. Yikes. That is, of those players with injury concerns, Terrence Marshall Jr. as well had some things pop up. Degrading knees is not something I'm interested in. And instead, I'm going to give him an edge rusher that's getting a ton of buzz right now. And I think also fits that defense really, really well if I can find him. Joe Tryon is my pick here. It feels more and more certain every day that he's going to be a first-round guy. This could also be Jason Owe. If you put Owe here, I totally get it. This is a team that develops edge rushers with the best of them. Don't hate that pick. I just feel like Tryon is more day one impact. And for this team to continue to be good, they're going to need that defense to be playing at its highest level. Like, if they want to seriously win in the AFC, I feel like the window is still there because you have Lamar Jackson. He's young, but he's about to get a mega contract. I think Tryon makes a bigger impact right away compared to Owe, which I think a lot of people would agree on that. Then we get to the New Orleans Saints at 28, giving them Greg Newsome. They need corner already. Depending on what happens with Marshawn Lattimore, they might need corner even more. Newsome's better than pick 28 in this class. Fantastic value, position of need. Then we get to the Packers at 29, and I don't know if this happens, but if they don't take Elijah Moore and he's on the board at 29, I don't know what to do. I don't know what Packers fans are going to do. Like, if Elijah Moore is there at 29, a team that needs a wide receiver, Moore is something different you don't have. He can work from the slot. I think he can work outside. Great after the catch, can stretch the field, really can do it all. Make Aaron Rodgers happy. I don't know what Green Bay is trying to do in this game of chicken, trying to irritate a top 3 QB in the league. Make him happy. Take a pass catcher in round 1. I know this is a deep class, but at the same time, by the time you get to the back end of round 2, you're not going to get somebody nearly as good as Elijah Moore. It's a good class. There's a lot of NFL starters, but Elijah Moore has star to superstar level potential. Take him here at 29. Address other positions of need later on. Bills on the clock at pick 30. Kwity Paye. Perfect fit for that 4-3 defense. They're looking for young edge rush help. You still have Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes, so you have some older guys in the room to help coach up the likes of Paye as well as AJ Epineza. Also, Epineza is a guy you can kick inside on passing downs in a 4-3 defense, pair him up with Ed Oliver. And I really like that tandem on the interior with then a rotation between Hughes, Addison, Paye, whoever's healthy. Everyone's going to get banged up as the year goes on, so whoever's healthy, throw them on the edge. This is a team that, if they can just have a top half of the league caliber pass rush. If they finish 16 or better in sacks, Super Bowl caliber team. And that's what you're looking for in this pick. How do we go from really good team to Super Bowl contenders? Kwity Paye on the board. He's better than pick 30. You sprint the card in. Then we get to the Ravens' other pick. And again, the Orlando Brown trade, I think it works out for both sides. For Kansas City, you could go tackle here at 31. But are you going to get anybody who's day one as good as Orlando Brown? Probably not. Though Orlando Brown had it a little easy in Baltimore, considering he's blocking for Lamar Jackson, who's as evasive as it gets across any position at the NFL, and a lot of teams contain as opposed to strictly pass rush against Lamar Jackson. So we're going to find out how good Orlando Brown Jr. is. If he plays as good as he did last year, just in Kansas City and at that left tackle spot for all 17 games, Kansas City will view this trade as a win. And if you're Baltimore, you get rid of a guy who didn't want to be there, and you get some good assets in return. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. And here at pick 31, I know I mentioned some injury concerns, and that swayed me away from taking Azeez Ojulari. I'm not as concerned about what came up with Terrace Marshall. Basically, it was like high school injuries that, potentially could linger. There's no signs that they did. The other knock I've heard some people say is a lot of his success last year came from the slot. I think this is a team that needs a slot wide receiver. So if you play Sammy Watkins and Hollywood Brown on the outside, and you have Terrace Marshall as this big body slot guy, that's awesome. Also, he has plenty of reps on the outside. So long term, when you don't have Sammy Watkins, or if Watkins gets hurt, you kick him out and you play Devin Duvernay, that is, in the slot spot. I think Marshall's inside-out versatility fits whatever Baltimore wants to do long-term. And again, this is an organization that develops players really, really well. So put Marshall Jr. into the hands of the Ravens. I feel really comfortable. As much as that kills me to say as a Steelers fan, I don't want the Ravens to be good, but then with Terrace Marshall would do him wonders. And then the final pick of the first round is going to be Jayson Oweh. So regardless of how you look at this pick to Baltimore, if you want to make Oweh pick number 27, you can go ahead and make Tryon pick number 32. It could go either way. Even going back to the top of the board, if this is Trey Lance, I'd argue that New England makes the trade up to 7 to get Mac Jones. I really would make that argument. But nonetheless, we're on to round number 2. This is where I see the Jags going offensive line. To me, Dylan Radunz is exactly what they're looking for. Could be the Cam Robinson replacement at left tackle. He could also be the Andrew Norwell replacement at left guard. Kind of gives you that flexibility as you move forward with this organization. Next pick, the Jets at 34. This is a tough one because I originally had Gregory Rousseau going here, but now I'm starting to really... I just don't know how far Azeez Ojulari actually falls. And he feels like a perfect fit, that D Ford-like player in Robert Saleh's defense. So the Jets, without regards to the injury concerns, they took Caleb Farley earlier. They're banking on a high upside. They're early on in the process. And if Ojulari and Farley can stay healthy, battle the back injury for Farley, the knee problem for Ojulari, this is a slam dunk draft for the Jets. Also, it's just one of those guys, injury concerns aside, he's certainly a first round guy. He's my edge 2 up until I found out about the injury problem. So it's a risky pick. Thought about Rousseau there, but instead I'm gonna give the Jets Ojulari. Then we get to the Steelers in their first pick, and they definitely like Najee Harris. You can tell that's the guy they've been eyeing throughout this process. And you move down from 24, you take him at 35. Better value. You're not going to have the people saying don't take a running back in the first round. Instead, you took him in the top of the second. There's still might be people who say that's a little early, but you also got extra assets which will play out big time throughout the rest of this draft. On to pick 36. This is where the Dolphins take their blindside protector for Tua, Sam Cosmi. Cosmi will have to shift from left tackle to right tackle, but that's the blindside protector position for Tua. Also, the Dolphins today, as of me recording this, they traded Eric Flowers back to Washington, and they're going to kick Robert Hunt back inside to guard, who was at right tackle. So, makes all the sense in the world. It feels like the Dolphins have identified a guy, maybe at 18, but I'm thinking more here at 36, whether it's Radunz or Cosmi, maybe Eichenberg, as that blindside protector for Tua. Next up, the Eagles at pick number 37. This could be a variety of different corners. I could see them liking Tyson Campbell or Eric Stokes, or maybe Ambry Thomas be a little earlier than we've seen his name float around. But I don't know exactly what that defense is going to be for Philly. Obviously, a new coaching staff. Give him Asante Samuel Jr. He's the best corner available and tremendous value. He's a late first-round caliber guy in my eyes. Then we get to the Bengals at 38, and I think all the reason you should go with Kyle Pitts at 5 is because you can get a guy like Alex Leatherwood or Dylan Radunz or Liam. Like this is deeper offensive class, especially considering you're picking at the top of round 2. And all three of those guys I mentioned could be day 1 guards. Like all of them. All three of them. I think there's people out there in the world who would see all three better fit at guard. So Alex Leatherwood, plug and play him at left guard, have him be a mauler. Joe Mixon smile from ear to ear. I can see it from where I'm sitting down. And then you still have Jonah Williams at left tackle. You have Riley Reiff for a year at right tackle. Maybe you push that need off a year. Maybe it's something you address in round 3 or 4. You take a developmental guy. Or if Reiff plays well as this year, you just bring him back. So you're building up the offensive line. You also got an awesome pass catcher at Kyle Pitts at pick number 5. On to the Panthers at 39. I'm going to continue to make this pick Javon Holland. PFF has him as a corner. I think if he's utilized to his max potential, he's used in both roles. So a couple of actually Oregon Ducks to Carolina. I had him take Sewell in round 1. Here I have him take Holland, who, when they spread it out to nickel and dime packages, yeah, sure, play Holland in the nickel. That's totally fine. I'm all for it. And then base packages, maybe he plays free safety. Maybe he's a full-time free safety. But nonetheless, Matt Rule has a dynamic chess piece on the defense. And if Holland plays free safety, it allows you to play Jeremy Chin more in the box. That's kind of where he's better suited based off of his skill set. So this is a team that has a ton of needs. Holland could be a player who fills a couple of them at once. Now we have the Falcons on the clock at pick 40. This is the pick they got from the trade from Denver. And so recapping, they went Micah Parsons at 9, traded back into the first round to take Javon Marek. And now I'm going to go ahead and give him a corner. In this spot, I'm thinking Tyson Campbell. Again, plenty of different routes they could go. Maybe they like Stokes more. Maybe they like a player like Elijah Molden more. Maybe they want someone like Ifeatu Melifonwu, Kelvin Joseph. Maybe they're banking on his upside. I just like Campbell. I mean, it's kind of like a cool connection, Georgia to Atlanta. That's not necessarily the reason for the pick, but Campbell's one of those guys who has all the immeasurables, has the height, has the speed, played in a big conference. All those things need proper development. He's still a unfinished product as a cornerback, but has all the things you can't teach. You're just born with it. And I think in this spot, considering you've already gotten Parsons and Murray, continue to address the defense and get a corner that can play on the outside. And that's the other thing. Isaiah Oliver played a little bit better last year once he moved to the nickel. AJ Terrell was a surprisingly good pick at 16. Felt like a reach, but he played pretty well last year. He's one of the few rookie corners that did have a good rookie season. You put Campbell on the outside opposite him. Again, with the additions of Parsons and Martin, that defense is starting to really look up. Next up, we got the Detroit Lions at pick number 41. And remember earlier where I said, man, if they could get Waddle at 15, that'd be awesome. Well, they took Elijah Vera Tucker, and then here I'm going to give him De'Ami Brown. I love the idea of De'Ami Brown in this offense. I know Tyrell Williams and Rashad Perriman are both outside guys. Figure it out. De'Ami Brown has largely been an outside field stretcher. And if it comes down to De'Ami Brown getting snaps or Tyrell Williams, get De'Ami Brown the reps. Like, do your due diligence. Get the young guy the reps and the playing time he needs now to be better long term. So don't let players like Tyrell Williams and Rashad Perriman prevent you from drafting a guy who could be your wide receiver 1 long term. That would just be irresponsible. Next up, we got the Giants at 42, and this is going to be an edge rushing position. I think Greg Rousseau really does fit. Originally, I was thinking 4-3, right? And then you could kick him inside, but maybe a 3-4 does suit him better. You could be that 5 technique, that 3-4 D end. This team already has a number of good pass rushers on the interior, so Rousseau might have to go outside. But in this spot, I just think the value's too good, and it's a position of need. So Joe Judge and a great coaching staff, especially on the defensive side of the ball, figure out how they can best use Rousseau. This is an upside play. A guy that maybe even just a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we would have been shocked to see him available at 42, but now it's seeming more and more likely. Position of need, you bank on the upside, you take Rousseau here at 42. That brings us to the 49ers at pick 43, and this is where I'm going to go Kelvin Joseph. Yes, plenty of off-the-field concerns, but when it comes down to corners left available, has the highest ceiling. I like Thomas Graham. I like Efetu Melifonwu. I like Eric Stokes. Tay Gowan, I'm a big fan of his. Aaron Robinson as well. This is a team that needs a boundary corner, and Joseph, he fits the build. 6'1", 192, young guy. Obviously, had to transfer from LSU. Off the field concerns are a problem, but this is also a team that has a great culture. And if it feels like there's an organization that could help alleviate those off the field concerns, it's San Francisco. They're one of those teams that where you feel like they could coach up and mentor Joseph into not having those off the field concerns. So I like the pick a lot. And then with San Francisco, you go QB of the future. You get a potential CB1. You've taken care of, in my eyes, the biggest needs long term. Maybe not the QB I would have taken at 3, but nonetheless, you have addressed your big positions of need. Next up, Cowboys went Patrick Surtain in round 1, and I'm sticking with Boogie Basham here at pick 44. Feels like a great fit in a 4-3 defense. I really don't want to see him playing a 3-4. I just think a 4-3 is the best suited spot for him. And you pair him up with DeMarcus Lawrence, so you know he's not going to get double teamed. You know Lawrence is going to be the guy who gets all the attention. You can focus on that defense. This is already a good offense. Boost up that defense and make yourself serious contenders inside the NFC. Jacksonville back on the clock at 45. I think this has been my pick throughout the entire draft process, which is crazy. It's one of the few picks that I've had consistent other than like Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson 1 and 2, right? Pat Freiermuth, this is a team that needs a tight end. I really like the receiving room, but tight end is definitely a position where they can get better. Freiermuth, the second best tight end in this class, in my opinion, does a lot. Will make the game easier for Trevor Lawrence big time. Now we're going back to the Detroit Lions at pick 46. And I'm actually going to go edge. I'm going to give him Ronnie Perkins, right? So at the end of the 2021-2022 season, you can cut Trey Flowers and save money against the cap moving forward. And I think Ronnie Perkins is just a long-term answer to a replacement of Trey Flowers who hasn't really worked out in Detroit. Granted, not many players really did hit their full potential under Matt Patricia. Maybe that changes under Dan Campbell, and maybe they don't see edge as big of a need. I'm thinking long-term, Ronnie Perkins opposite of Romeo Okwara. Feels like a really good pairing, good young dynamic duo. Also, I should mention, as I'm recording this, literally just got the news, Teddy Bridgewater has been traded to the Broncos in exchange for a 6th round pick. So I'm already recording this. I'm not starting over too deep into the process. Don't let Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock prevent you from taking Justin Fields if you're Denver. You got rid of the 6th round pick. He does make a lot of money. Maybe Teddy B's just a nudge towards Drew Lock, and maybe those two competed out. But if you have the opportunity to go get Fields at 4, I think you'd be crazy not to. But did want to address that since it happened literally as I'm recording this. This might change up a lot for the draft because maybe Fields falls a little bit more because Denver doesn't want to trade up and said Pitts goes 4. I don't know. Frustrating, but I'm too deep into this to start over. And I think Fields is better than Teddy Bridgewater. I think Fields is better than Drew Lock. So I think you make the move regardless. Anyways, continue on to this mock draft. Chargers at pick 47. I'm going to go with an edge / linebacker, Joseph Osai. I think he fits that defense really well. Outside linebacker opposite of Uchenna Nwosu. You play Jerry Tillery and Joey Bosa at the 3-4 DN spots. You have Pierce and a combination of other D tackles there on the inside between Bosa and Tillery. Also, if Osai doesn't work out at edge, where he is very explosive, very raw, doesn't have a whole lot of reps, you just play him at linebacker. Outside of Kenneth Murray, there is no set long-term answer at linebacker for the Chargers. So Osai, one way or another, I think, makes an impact on this team and is worthy of a 2nd-round pick. Then we get to the Raiders at pick 48. Really love this fit. You play Jonathan Abrams down in the box, and you have Jamar Johnson just play center field. Johnson, what he can do just as a ball-hawking, playmaking, deep safety, it's elite. It really is. He's not a good tackler. He doesn't take good angles. Doesn't finish tackling well. Looks like he's just trying to force fumbles. But nonetheless, you can coach that up. But minimum, you're getting a guy who's going to just come away with some insane turnovers and picks. And I mean, that's the name of the NFL. On defense, you want to bend but don't break. Force teams to 3 in the red zone. You want to get sacks and turnovers. Yardage is just, it's a whimsical stat in a lot of ways. You want sacks, turnovers, try to hold teams to field goals when they're in the red zone, which obviously is all easier said than done. But talking about turnovers, Jamar Johnson brings that element to that defense, and it's something they don't really have. They don't have that guy who's just like, you need to go get the football back on defense. Jamar Johnson's a guy. I don't know if the Raiders have anybody quite like that. Next up, Cardinals at pick 49. I'm sticking with Alim McNeill. I just love what he could do, at least as a run stopper. Paired up with J.J. Watt on the interior, you have Chandler Jones and Marcus Golden. I think there's already enough pass rush on this team where you need help stopping the run. Isaiah Simmons reportedly is going to make the transition to linebacker. I think that's going to help. And then Alim McNeill goes a long way. Best run stopping grade of any D tackle in college football last year per PEF. And I also think he's got some upside as a pass rusher. NC State, not a program that develops D tackles, which is okay. But they also run a 3-3-5, so predominantly three-man fronts. So McNeill's going to get a lot of double teams at the NFL level. You're more often going to see four-man rush. Whether it's a 3-4-4-3, you're going to almost always see at least a four-man rush. And because of that, McNeill's going to see a lot less double teams. And therefore, he's going to win a lot more in one-on-one spots versus double teams, naturally. And then also he gets to work with J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Marcus Golden, plenty of guys who have had awesome careers. Golden not so much as the other two, but guys who have done it at a high level, plenty of experience, guys, high caliber guys to learn pass rushing technique from. So really love Alim McNeill there to the Cardinals at 49. Doubling down with defense, you go Horn, you go McNeill. That offense is going to put up points. Not everybody's used to their fullest potential, but that offense still puts up points. You need to improve the defense if you want to be a serious contender. Back to the Dolphins at pick number 50. They need a long-term answer at running back, and I think Javonte Williams is that. I think Williams might, I don't know. I have said, and in my position rankings, I had Harris at 1, but every day that goes by, I just like Javonte Williams that much more. And I mean, they're separated by a hair. I mean, ETN's in that group too. But the Dolphins are looking for an answer at running back. Had a very interesting committee last year. Savon Ahmed gets snaps, Myles Gaskins, guys in and out of the lineup, injuries, everything that could have happened in the running back committee last year did in Miami. Javonte Williams, I think, provides some stability. And again, you're just improving this team across the board. You have so many assets. You're plugging away and finding answer at a lot of the positions you don't necessarily have an answer for quite yet. Speaking of teams with question marks, get to the Washington football team, and I'd say quarterback long-term is a question mark. Kellen Mond could be the answer to that. This is a development. This is a project, no doubt about it. And they might be a team that's in on Jimmy G if he gets cut, if Mac Jones is the pick at 3. But I like Mond here as a developmental project, whether it's behind Jimmy G, whether it's behind Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mond, I think, is worth the risk here for Washington football team, who have a very good roster. Still some needs to fix. Still need to get a tackle in this draft, which we will do in round 3. But when you have that good of a roster and you're really just missing the QB, take a shot in the second round on a guy like Mond. I think it's totally worth it. Next up, Chicago Bears at pick 52. They're just getting tremendous value here in Kadarius Toney. I don't know how this happens at every mock, but he always falls here to 52, and I'm like, why is Toney still on the board? He could be that slot, field stretching guy. You already have Darnell Mooney. I get that, but I like Mooney on the outside a lot. And you have Allen Robinson, at least for this year, barring a trade. And then Toney could be your slot guy. Also, a really good field stretcher. Also, you can just get him the ball in open space. Make it easy for Andy Dalton. Give him an easy throw. Toney after the catch is electric. So, in this draft, you've gotten a potential franchise left tackle and an awesome wide receiver threat who can play from the slot, can stretch the field. You're putting pieces together to try to create the most conducive environment for Andy Dalton as possible. I don't think it's enough because Andy Dalton's just objectively not that good, but you're trying your darndest for Chicago. Back to the Titans at pick 53. They need corner. I'd love to see Asante Samuel be here. I think they're going to run a lot more man, so maybe they go reach a little bit for St. Juste here, or maybe Thomas Graham. He feels a little flexible in regards to the scheme he could fit, but I'm going to go Aaron Robinson. They didn't bring back Desmond King, and at the minimum, Aaron Robinson could be an awesome slot corner. And you have Janoris Jenkins and kind of a question mark at the other corner spot on the outside. I think Robinson might be able to play outside. Not 100% certain on that. That's gonna be a training camp question that gets answered. Like Vrabel's gonna be able to see it with his own eyes at camp. Can he play? Is he quick enough? Does he have the feet? Is his feet and his hips fast enough to do that? If they are, fantastic. He's an outside corner who can play man press with the best of them. If not, you got an awesome nickel cornerback here. And the NFL, I say this all the time, is year by year growing more and more 3 wide receivers, 3 cornerbacks. So having an awesome nickel corner is very valuable and worth a second round pick. Back to the Colts at 54. I'm going to go offensive tackle. plenty of decent options here. I could see them going upside with James Hudson, maybe Stone Forsythe, but I like Liam Eichenberg, right? Eichenberg right now, a better run blocker than he is pass blocker. A lot of those other guys, probably more pass dominant. I don't know. That's not the case with all those names you just saw. Also, this is a team that has Braden Smith at right tackle, the only tackle in the NFL last year with sub 33-inch arms. So maybe this is just a team who says, I don't care about your arm length. And Liam Eichenberg would be another one of those tackles with sub 33-inch arms. So I could see that just being a Colts ideology where they're just like, I don't care about your arm length. Can you play? Can you play tackle? Can you put guys in the dirt? Cool, we'll take you. And this is a team that develops offensive linemen with the best of them. Also, it's just kind of a fun storyline. Eichenberg next to Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson. I'm a Notre Dame fan too. That's awkward. But Eichenberg next to Nelson, former Fighting Irishman. Feels like a really fun storyline there for the Colts fan base. Regardless, moving on to the Steelers at pick 55. They went Najee Harris at top of round 2 after trading back from their spot in the first round, and then they still get Landon Dickerson here at 55. I think the Steelers are going to end up neglecting tackle. I don't think they're going to take it in this draft class, is what I'm trying to say. Chukwuma Okorafor going into year 3, that's typically when we see tackles take that leap. We'll see. I don't know. The potential was there. He was drafted as a developmental tackle. He's going to be starting on the left side. Zach Banner, I do feel confident about. I think he can be a plus-level right tackle. Maybe they even switch those two players. I don't know. Chukwuma Okorafor feels like he's been developed to eventually be the left tackle of the future for the Steelers. Maybe don't rule out a reunion with Alejandro Villanueva, though it looks like he's probably going to go to Baltimore. But nonetheless, I think center is the biggest need on the offensive line regardless. And I think it's the one offensive line spot that the Steelers will consider in the first 3 rounds. Dickerson, in my opinion, best center in the class. You go Najee Harris. That's how you rebuild the running game. One, you got a good running back. That's a good start. Harris is definitely an improvement over Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland, but Landon Dickerson, you got to get a push up front. Marquise Pouncey just wasn't doing that last year. Dickerson can make the difference if he's healthy and on the field. Next up is the Seahawks at pick 56. Gonna give him a corner here, and I'm gonna go with Thomas Graham Jr. Kind of a name that, depending on who you're talking about and who you're talking with about corners, doesn't get talked about a lot. But look at the tape, and it feels like he can fit into a lot of different schemes. And he doesn't get talked about a lot, and that almost makes me feel more confident with the Seahawks taking him. They just love maybe going a little early. I think Graham's worth being a second-round pick, but Jordan Brooks, Rashad Penny. This is a team that likes to think outside the box, is the nice way to put it. Sorry, any Seahawks fans. But I think Thomas Graham Jr., even if they're just trying to do something different and go with someone no one's expecting, I think it's a good fit. This is a team that needed cornerback anyways. Very bad secondary last year, and then they lost Shaquille Griffin. So need to replace that. Thomas Graham Jr. could certainly be that. It could also be Ifeatu Melifonwu. It could be Tay Gowan. It could be Paulson Adebo. Plenty of guys. I just decided to go Thomas Graham Jr. here. Next up's the Rams at 57. Speaking of corner/safety, Elijah Molden can be your John Johnson III / Troy Hill replacement. He could be your nickel corner. He could be your deep free safety. Fill both these roles. Feels like a match made in heaven. And plus, this team has a couple of third-round picks, so that's where you go linebacker / offensive line in this mock draft. So we get to the first pick of the Kansas City Chiefs, the first of 2 here in the second round. And this sounds a little weird, but I'm still going to go offensive tackle just given I don't know who's going to play right tackle. I like Brady Christensen a lot. Played left tackle at BYU. Didn't have a ton of competition. I totally get that. And I know, obviously, Orlando Brown Jr. is going to be the left tackle. That's where he wants to play. That's where he wants to get paid. But you still need a right tackle. And Mike Remmers, if he is starting at right tackle, that's bad. And Kyle Long, when he last played right tackle for Chicago, didn't necessarily look great. So I think Long is better suited at guard with Tooney at the other guard spot. So maybe you take Christensen in a way of taking away his weakness of not playing elite level competition. Instead of him playing left tackle, he plays right. Typically at left tackle, you're going to see the team's best edge rushers. Not always, but just typically, generally speaking here. So maybe you play him at right tackle. Really like his upside. Super good athlete. Also, if Orlando Brown Jr. maybe doesn't work out and you don't feel like paying him, like if he's disappointing this year, then maybe Christensen fills in long term. Kind of tough in this spot. Kind of a tough pick, but I still think Christensen it should be the pick here for Kansas City because they still need another tackle. Then we get to the Browns here at pick 59. Would have given them Christian Barmore in the first round, but the Jags took him the pick before, so instead they go Jamin Davis, and now I'm going to give him Levi Onwuzurike. Explosive off the snap. Great interior disruptor. They cut Sheldon Richardson. Levi Onwuzurike immediately fills that role. Saints on the clock at 60. This just feels like a Rondale Moore spot. I'd love to see what Sean Payton could do with Rondale Moore. Creative play caller, super dynamic, really just a playmaker we haven't really seen given his height. But he also has like a 42-inch vertical. He could play running back. He could play slot. He might even be able to play outside. I don't know. Moore could just be this like Swiss Army knife, this is a team that likes Swiss Army knives. Like they like Taysom Hill. They want people who can do multiple things. And Rondale Moore is something the Saints don't have right now. So at the minimum, he adds a different element to that offense. And again, I just love to see what Sean Payton could do with Rondale Moore. So maybe it's my bias peeking through a little bit. Bills back on the clock. I'm going to go cornerback here. Feels like a really good fit for Efetu Melifonwu. Tall, lanky corner. Bills could use an outside boundary corner. I'm a fan of Levi Wallace, but maybe the organization isn't. Maybe they're looking for a different player to play opposite of Tre'Davious White. Efetu Melifonwu feels like he could be that answer. Packers back on the clock. Gave them Elijah Moore in the first round. Really hope that is what they're thinking. And then here, back end of round two, give them Eric Stokes. I don't know if Stokes is still on the board here at 62. And if he's not, Efetu Melifonwu could make sense. Maybe Tay Gowan, Thomas Graham, Paulson Adebo. I think there's still some other options that could be in play. Sorry, I moved the screen down. There for Green Bay. Then we get to Kansas City's second round pick. And I am going to give him a bit of a project wide receiver, but one I think that will pay off. Josh Palmer, in a lot of ways, feels like a poor man's Jamar Chase. Again, not saying he is Jamar Chase, but based off his size, contested catch ability, just feels like that poor man's Jamar Chase did not have, not even competent, not even average, very bad QB play at Tennessee. Obviously, in Kansas City, that is not a problem. And he's just a different type of wide receiver. He could be that X opposite of Tyreek Hill, who's this gadget / deep threat burner. Tyreek Hill can do it all, but the way they use Hill is a really good complement opposite of Palmer. You also have Travis Kelce, obviously. So this team needs wide receiver. Really like Josh Palmer getting in the mix in Kansas City. Last pick of the second round. Really thought about quarterback here, but instead I'm going to go defensive tackle and Davion Nixon. So you go Oweh, developmental edge rusher. You also get the Ndamukong Suh replacement here in Davion Nixon, who I like his tape and I like his potential a ton. And again, like I said, he's the Ndamukong Suh replacement long term. And we're on to round 3, and we're starting it off with a bang. I mean, this would be a slam dunk pick. I don't think Richie Grant's on the board at 65, but if he was, man, you got Rayshawn Jenkins, who the Jags overpaid, but he could be your free safety. Grant, I think, can play free or strong, but dude, he wants to lay the boom. So you play him in the box, strong safety role. Think it's a great fit. Also, maybe they move on from Jenkins in a year or two's time, and they can play Grant, who's really instinctual, plays really well, plays a good deep safety despite not having elite speed. So Grant gives you some versatility, and he'd be tremendous value here. First pick of round number 3. Speaking of a player with great value to start the third round, Wyatt Davis to the Jets. I feel like that would be a phenomenal pick. Get some protection for Zach Wilson. Also, you're trying to boost up that running game, which we're going to also address a little bit later on here in the third round. Next up's the Texans. First time seeing them on the board. And in that 3-4 defense, I think they're going to be willing to take a project, a guy who, it's going to take some time. But reportedly in interviews, he has said teams are interested in him playing 3-4 outside linebacker instead of traditional linebacker. If I could find him here we go, Baron Browning. And that's kind of what I have said, not just me, plenty of other people, but Baron Browning as a 3-4 outside linebacker, you know he can play in space and in coverage because he did that a lot at Ohio State, but he's so explosive, such a good athlete, and some of his best reps and best moments on tape come rushing the passer, even against tackles. So I think Lovie Smith, the defensive coordinator in Houston, will see Baron Browning as a project, but one that's worth considering because you coach up Baron Browning, get him used to playing 3-4 outside linebacker. He's got all the other traits. He just needs to be coached up. Back to the Steelers, once again on the clock here at 68, and I'm going to give them Tay Gowan. I am a huge Tay Gowan fan. Community college to then just 1 year at UCF in 2019, opted out of 2020. That 2019 tape with an awesome UCF secondary. I mean, that defense was loaded. Tay Gowan stands out as one of the best players on it. So this is a team that needs corner. Justin Lane literally just got arrested the other day, and he's scheduled to be an outside starting corner opposite of Joe Hayden. So Tay Gowan might be playing that Justin Lane role. Maybe Lane's on the field and Gowan is the long-term replacement to Joe Hayden, who is like 32 years old. Nonetheless, corner is a big position of need for the Steelers. So you go Harris, you go Dickerson, you go Gowan. You're addressing your big areas of need, at least in my opinion. Next on the clock, Cincinnati Bengals. I love this pick. Jalen Mayfield at once upon a time was a first-round guy. Here he falls to pick 69. Come on, that is just tremendous value. And this allows you to move on from Riley Reiff at the end of this year. And you have Mayfield learn from the likes of Jonah Williams in the same room with Alex Leatherwood and Riley Reiff as well. This is a guy who's a run-blocking mauler, doesn't have to start right away. He could also just be a day one guard. He might start at right guard, right day one. So you could have Williams, Leatherwood, Trey Hopkins, Mayfield, Riley Reiff. And that's your starting offensive line day one. Or Mayfield just sits entirely this year. You build up, especially his pass protection. He needs to get better as a pass blocker. You build that up, and then year two, he's your replacement to Riley Reiff, so you don't have to overpay for a second tackle. Nonetheless, really love that pick for Cincinnati. Next on the clock, got the Philadelphia Eagles, and this stops the falling for Nick Bolton. He's better than pick 70. It's just tough. There's other teams who need linebacker, but considering what I gave them, I just don't know if I would prioritize Bolton over who I gave him. So Bolton falls a little bit. Great value there for the Eagles. Next up, the Broncos. I also have them taking a bit of a developmental tackle in Jackson Carman. Could be the replacement to Juwan James at right tackle. Carman might also have to kick inside to play guard, so he maybe is your answer at right guard, maybe even left guard. I don't know. This team has a solid offensive line, but could improve, and Carman's just kind of a project here at the top of round 3. Lions back on the clock at pick number 72. They also go linebacker in Jabril Cox. Fantastic value. And Cox is all over the field, super speedy guy, and definitely a big-time upgrade for a linebacking core who, outside of Jelani Tavai, which I don't even know how high I am on Jelani Tavai, it's a team that needs some big upgrades at the linebacker spot. Panthers up on the clock at pick number. So then we get to the Panthers at pick 73. They lost Curtis Samuel, this dynamic playmaking option. You engineer looks for him, jet sweeps, line him up in the backfield, and it feels like Amari Rodgers could just be that. He could just plug and play, be the replacement in the answer, and Curtis Samuel fill that role, for Carolina. So really like that pick. They have some other positions they could fill. They did sign David Moore, so maybe it's not wide receiver, but Curtis Samuel was a big part of that offense. And you always have players in and out of the lineup, like DJ Moore could get hurt, Robbie Anderson could get hurt, David Moore could get hurt. You want to have a deep wide receiver room. Back on the clock is the Washington football team at pick 74. We've neglected tackle for long enough. I'm going to give him James Hudson. Super high upside, very athletic guy. Just needs some polishing once he gets to the NFL level. Feels like a project that Washington will gladly accept in round number 3. Sticking with defense as we get to the Cowboys, I'm going to give them a interior defensive lineman, but I'm going to give them, thought about Milton Williams, could use a disruptor, but I feel like Neville Gallimore is going to take at least a small step forward. So instead, I'm going to give him Tommy Togiai, a nose tackle, someone to help stop the run in that 4-3 defensive front. So you go corner, edge, nose tackle. I think at that point you have addressed enough defense, and the next pick will be offense. But Togiai, I feel like, is a nice compliment to Neville Gallimore. And if Gallimore can just be a good enough interior pass rusher in between Boogie Basham and DeMarcus Lawrence, that's a very good pass front. You've also added Patrick Surtain to the secondary, so you automatically made that better. You moved Diggs to CB2. You're getting that defense on the right track. Also, I think it helps hiring Dan Quinn, who is just better than Mike Nolan as a defensive coordinator. Next on the clock is the New York Football Giants at pick number 76. And I mentioned earlier, you could wait. You don't have to go Elijah Vera-Tucker at 14. And I think it's because you can get a guy like Quinn Miners to be your plug-and-play center or right guard. Whatever you want to do. If you want to move Pert in from tackle to guard, I don't know, but you could. You could at least try. And this could also just be a spot where Quinn Miners is your plug-and-play center, and that's an upgrade in itself. So, nonetheless, that's why I said go Jalen Waddle at 14, go get Quinn Miners in round 3. You have an answer on the interior right there. Back to the Chargers at 77. Now I'm going to give them their man press corner that I think Brandon Staley is really going to be looking for. Benjamin St-Juste, great size. Man press is his game. I don't know if it'll load. Doesn't look like it will. But 6'3", tall, lanky, physical corner. Fits that man press. Could also play some, press cover 3. So really think he's a good fit for Brandon Staley in that Chargers defense. Back to the Vikings. It's been a long time since we've seen him on the clock after making the trade earlier to go get their left tackle in Rashawn Slater. Here, Peyton Turner is just fantastic value. They need edge opposite of Danielle Hunter. Turner can fit in a 4-3 at that defensive end spot. Feels like a match made in heaven. And, with only 2 picks through 3 rounds, 2 very quality picks, and it feels like the Vikings, in turn, address their biggest needs at left tackle and edge rusher. Back-to-back Raiders picks. And in this spot, I'm going to go ahead and give them their Rodney Hudson replacement in Creed Humphrey, as well as a linebacker of the future in Chaz Surratt. Starting with Humphrey, they need a center. Humphrey is center number 2 in my eyes. Easy enough. And I like Chaz Surratt. This could also go to someone like Pete Warner, who covers a lot of ground. Derek Barnes is getting hot at the right time. Cameron McGrone's an athletic freak. I just like Surratt because he's also an athletic freak and also QB turned linebacker. It just feels like he understands offenses really well, which he should as a former quarterback. So definitely a project and needs to be coached up. But that's the job of Gus Bradley. Get Surratt in a position where he can be maybe not an immediate contributor, but by the end of the season, maybe he's a big part of that defense and a potential replacement to Corey Littleton, who you can cut next year and save money. There will be a dead cap. There will be a cap hit with it, but the penalty is not nearly as much as his salary. And then maybe also Nick Kwiatkowski. I don't know. I think Kwiatkowski played a little bit better than Littleton, but Surratt nonetheless allows you to move on from one of the 2 next year if you're looking to save some money against the cap, which every NFL team is. Back to the Miami Dolphins at pick number 81. They've been busy, and we have to take Zaven Collins in round 1, who I think is going to play that outside linebacking role. And I think Quincy Roche could potentially play the other. Also, Zaven Collins could be your Benardrick McKinney replacement. McKinney's on the last year of his deal, and he's the inside linebacker, so Collins could also just eventually fill that void, and then Roche is the edge starter. But if Andrew Van Ginkel doesn't work out, this is a team that needs 2 edge rushers. Collins, Roche, boom, there's your answer. So, still some things to play out. We'll see how they play Collins and where they use him. But I like Roche. Fits a 3-4 really well. Also, it's cool to see the Dolphins to University of Miami connection. Not that that's the pick, but feels like a fun storyline. Back to the Washington football team, another 3rd-round pick. In this spot, I feel like they go get a developmental big body receiver. They've tried a few times, Antonio Gandy-Golden, though he was a little bit later in the draft process, and they have Charles Sims, who's like 6'5". Nico Collins got better and better at Michigan week by week, and overall just had, I think in my opinion, has a higher ceiling than someone like Antonio Gandy-Golden, who was really just like a red zone guy at Liberty, and then Charles Sims, who, probably never heard of if you're not a Washington football fan. Maybe you have, but I think Nico Collins presents a higher upside regardless. And it just gives you that X, and then you have Terry McLaurin as your field stretching guy opposite. Honestly, McLaurin's an all-around wide receiver. It's not just fair to call him a field stretcher. And then you play Curtis Samuel in the slot, where I like him a lot. So long-term, maybe Kellen Mond's under center in a year's time from now, and you have Collins, McLaurin, and Samuel. That's a nasty offense. Don't forget about Antonio Gibson in the backfield as well. Then we get to the Bears at pick number 83, and the wait for a quarterback comes to a close with Davis Mills. I don't know if he falls this far, really. I don't know if he'll go into the first round like some of the CBS mocks. Don't read those, but feels like he might be destined for round 2. Maybe the latest, the Bucks, the very end of round 2. But here in my mock, I have him falling till round 3, and I think the Bears here would be all over it. Potential replacement to Andy Dalton long term, and maybe even by the end of the year. But Mills is really raw, so I don't think the Bears should rush him into this spot. Back to the Eagles, they need some interior offensive line help. You have Brandon Brooks, who's battled a ton of injuries I don't know if Trey Smith's going to play center, but Jason Kelsey's also aging. But overall, they could also use an upgrade at left guard. Trey Smith is an upgrade on the interior offensive line spot. Titans at pick number 85. I haven't taken a developmental right tackle. Spencer Brown has the body and the traits you're looking for, just not polished yet. So I don't think the Titans have to rush him in that spot. I think in a year's time, he could eventually take over that starting right tackle position and kind of right the wrong of the Isaiah Wilson pick last year. Pick 86, just fantastic value here for the Jets. Travis Etienne, probably doesn't fall to 86, but if he does, this is just slam dunk potential. And that zone running scheme that Robert Saleh is bringing to New York. They have LaMichael Pirine. They brought in Tevin Coleman. They San Francisco, I'm sure Saleh's going to do the same thing. They like committees. But, dude, the home run threat for Travis Etienne and how well he fits in that zone run scheme, I mean, that would be a fantastic fit. And this is just fantastic value. This is going to be the argument, or especially if Etienne has immediate success, where people around the NFL say this is why you don't need to take Harris at 35 if you're the Steelers, or Javonte Williams at pick 50 if you're the Dolphins. You can just wait to get Etienne at 86 in the third round, and he's just as good, maybe even better. But regardless, really interesting thought experiment. I don't know if he's available. Maybe he's the first third-round pick for the Jets, but nonetheless, in my mock, that's fantastic value and a fantastic fit. And here with the Steelers, final pick. They got this one as a part of the deal with Atlanta, and I haven't taken Kyle Trask. And partially, this could definitely be left tackle, but they addressed running back, center, then corner. And a report yesterday came out from 93.7 The Fan, a local sports station in Pittsburgh, that Kyle Trask is inside the top 5 QBs on the Steelers board. And they are not a metrics-driven team. They are old school. They do their scouting. That's their board. They stick to it. I don't know who the QB they have behind Trask. Maybe it's Mac Jones. Maybe it's Trey Lance because he's too much of a project. I'd love to see that board. Hopefully after the draft I can see what that board looks like. But apparently Kyle Trask is in their top 5, and apparently the Steelers have the highest grade on Kyle Trask of any team in the NFL. So, considering they got, in my opinion, their 3 biggest needs, it feels like Kyle Trask is going to be the next QB they take a shot on in the third round to be the Big Ben replacement. I'm not crazy about it, but that's the Steelers for you. Sometimes they make these picks. Mason Rudolph-esque right here is kind of what I'm getting vibes of. Regardless, moving on to the Rams here at pick number 88. Going to go ahead and give them Kendrick Green. This could be any variety of the guards, really. If it's not Kendrick Green, it could be someone like Aaron Banks, Ben Cleveland, Deontay Brown. Plenty of value here. Josh Myers, plug and play. You could use a center, obviously. Lots of options. A lot of value here in the third round at IOL. On to the Browns at pick number 89. I'm actually going to go ahead and give him Ambry Thomas. If he didn't get hurt, he would definitely be higher on a lot of people's boards. I think the Browns will buy into the upside. Greedy Williams has battled a ton of injuries, though, so maybe that, the injury problems in the past for Thomas kind of lure the Browns away, considering they don't want another Greedy Williams. But it's a position of need. You're looking to fill that other outside corner spot opposite of Denzel Ward. Thomas could certainly be that. And then we get to the Giants at pick number 90. And I know I gave them Gregory Rousseau, who could play outside linebacker. Maybe he's more of a 3-4D end. But I'm going to give another edge rusher here. And part of it's because when you look at the edge rushers on the roster right now for the Giants, it's Ryan Anderson, Ifeadi Odigbo, and O'Shane Ximines. Guys who have not proven themselves. So even if Rousseau is one of the edge rushers, it doesn't hurt to take another guy like Jordan Smith, who in a lot of ways feels a lot like Gregory Rousseau. Explosive, super athletic. Smith has more production, like over more years, but he did it at UAB. So like Rousseau, he did it one good year, had one really good year at a high-level conference, but where did the success come from is a big talking point, and it was just 1 year versus Smith, good player, high-level production, just a small school. But nonetheless, this team does not have a whole lot of needs. You got Quinn Miners, you addressed IOL, you got Jalen Waddle, you got a playmaker for that position, or for the wide receiver core. Go out there and throw darts at edge. Find an answer. Because you already have a nasty front with Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams and all those guys. Go find an edge rusher. And if everything pans out, Gregory Rousseau and Jordan Smith could be both. They both might work out. So Smith is definitely a project, a lot like Rousseau, but throw darts. Find an answer at edge. Take as many shots as you can. With the extra ammunition, you got this pick from Minnesota. With the extra ammunition, do your darndest. Do what you can. Take as many chances as you can. Then we get to the Cleveland Browns here, back on the clock at pick number 91. And I thought about going edge, but I think this is a team that could use some speed. So someone who's a little different, let's give him Dwayne Eskridge. Kind of a slot-only guy, but I like him more than I like Tutu Atwell. Maybe Tylan Wallace is in play here. But just looking for someone who's just like a dynamic speed guy. OBJ is a downfield threat, but I don't know if he has that same speed. Maybe he once did. Obviously also battled a ton of injuries. And then Jarvis Landry is not exactly a super speedy wide receiver. He does a lot of his work because he's a good route runner and he's a technician. So Dwayne Eskridge is a super explosive guy. Add that in the core and it feels like it rounds out that wide receiver group really well. But I could also see this being a 4-3 DN because Clowney's on a one-year deal. Tech McKinley's on a one-year deal as well. Back to the Packers at pick number 92. This is where you address offensive tackle. Stone Forsythe would have to move from left tackle to right. I think it's a move worth making. You move Billy Turner from right tackle back inside to right guard where I think he fits better. And then you have a sound offensive line. You took Elijah Moore in round 1, and you got a corner in round 2. I mean, that's an A caliber draft in my opinion for the Packers. Let's see if they actually do it though. Probably not. But anyways, moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Kind of like what I said about the Dallas Cowboys earlier. It feels like they could just use an interior run-stopping guy. And same thing with the Cardinals back in round 2 when I gave him Malik McNeil. I'm going to go with Marlon Tuipulotu. It feels like a really nice compliment to Ed Oliver, who is not good against the run, but especially going into year 3, we expect him to be an elite disruptor. You took Kwity Paye in round 1. You have AJ Epineza as a project. And especially in this spot, Tuipulotu is your first and second down guy, run stopper next to Ed Oliver. And then on third and long passing situations, you play Epineza as a pass rushing D tackle next to Ed Oliver. Those are the type of moves you want to make if you want to be a Super Bowl caliber team. And this is a team that doesn't have a whole lot of holes. So you might say third round pick for a 2-down guy, bit of a reach. But Tuipulotu does it at a high level. He'll be an elite level run stopper, which is one of the areas the Bills are weaker at. And yeah, once we get to the third round, fill a niche. Tuipulotu does just that. Ravens on the clock at pick number 94. I had them going interior offensive line. I think they still could get better on the inside. They brought in Kevin Zeitler. Maybe this is a left guard spot. Deontay Brown. I think they can get better at left guard. They also could be looking at center, so this could be Trey Smith. Really consider that. I just have my concerns about Trey Smith and the amount of pressures he allowed last year. But take your pick. Trey Smith or Deontay Brown here. Deontay Brown's just a mauler in the run game, and it feels like he would fit really well with what the Ravens are trying to do on offense. Next up, the Buccaneers. They brought back Antonio Brown today, the day of me recording this, so thought about wide receiver here. Instead, I'm going to give him Michael Carter. This could also be Kenneth Gainwell. I really would love Kenneth Gainwell in a lot of ways just because he's a great pass catcher, and instead of leaning on Gio Bernard and having James White come in for visits, Kenneth Gainwell could just fill that pass-catching running back role. But Michael Carter feels like the bowling ball that could complement Ronald Jones in that backfield, create a really nice duo for Tampa Bay. That brings the Patriots back on the clock at pick 96. And I'm going to give him a bit of a project corner here in Robert Rochelle, a guy who is as athletic as any corner in his class, like right up there with Caleb Farley. Maybe he might even be the most athletic. I have heard from people who also follow the draft very closely that he is the most athletic corner in their opinion. He's just not ready to go right now. Smaller conference, wide receiver turned corner. All those reasons, he's not going to be a day one impact. So for a team that might lose Stephon Gilmore at the end of this year, J.C. Jackson's an unrestricted free agent next offseason. This is a guy who could potentially fill one of those two spots. I'm pretty sure I've heard they're going to either trade Gilmore or extend him, so Rochelle might just be replacing J.C. Jackson. But nonetheless, this is a long-term play here for the New England Patriots, which they got their QB in round 1. They spent a ton of money in free agency. They built this roster right. This is a good spot to go ahead and take a guy who's going to sit for a year, learn from really high-caliber corners in Gilmore and Jackson, and become a starter after this season. Back to the Chargers. This is where I have Tylan Wallace coming off the board. I believe I had this in my last mock draft as well. Great field stretcher. Just presents a bunch of speed that this team just doesn't have at the wide receiver spot. You can play Keenan Allen in the slot. Mike Williams can be your contested, tough catch, big body guy on the opposite side. And then Wallace, he plays faster than a 4.5. I love this fit a ton. And it's another weapon for Justin Herbert. Back to the Saints at pick 98. Going to go ahead and give them the linebacker that they've been looking for a while. Pete Werner. I've heard him compared to A.J. Hawk. Part of it's, Ohio State. But just kind of feels that way. all over the field, super athletic, never in the wrong spot, but may not make the big splash plays, but just won't do anything wrong. And here in the third round, the Saints, that's something you can be looking for. A guy that's going to minimize the damage for you. Back to the Cowboys at pick 99. We've addressed enough on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to give him Robert Hainsey. I think Hainsey is better fitted to play guard/center. But he also has plenty of experience playing tackle, obviously, at Notre Dame. So this is your guy if Tyron Smith gets hurt. Could fill in for La'el Collins at right tackle if you move Collins over to left. Or if Collins gets hurt, maybe he could fill in at right. I don't know if he's going to immediately be ready to play tackle at the NFL level, so it's a bit of a project. But if there's another injury on the inside, the interior of the offensive line, Haynes can also fill in. This is basically just a swing offensive lineman, try to fill in the gaps when injuries happen. Pick number 100, and it's one of my favorite in this mock draft, Tommy Tremble, the Jonnu Smith replacement for Tennessee. He's a great blocker. He's pretty athletic after the catch too, so he can leak out. And you look at what the Titans use Jonnu Smith for, you're not going to see any stats where it's 8 catches, 120, no Travis Kelce lines, no Darren Waller type of numbers. It's going to be a couple catches, 30, 40, 50 yards, a touchdown or two. And I think Tommy Tremble can do all that in the receiving game, and he's a fantastic run blocker, which, of course, is what the Titans want to do first. Back to the Lions at pick 101, Milton Williams. This is a slam dunk pick. You play him next to Michael Brockers on passing situations. Love the interior pass rush. Again, they drafted Ronnie Perkins earlier as the potential replacement to Trey Flowers. They also have Romeo Okwara coming back. Also, Milton Williams don't have to rush on the field, and he can learn from Michael Brockers. That's part of it. The mentorship, I feel like Milton Williams needs to be refined as a pass rusher. He has great athleticism. Didn't always show up in big games for Louisiana Tech, which is kind of concerned because the big games for Louisiana Tech, like the biggest game they played was against BYU, and he didn't do anything. So obviously needs to become more refined, improve his, the technical side of being a pass rusher. Learning from Michael Brockers, a guy who's been doing it for a long time, still does it at a very solid level. Feels like a really good pairing long-term for Detroit. Pick 102 comes with the Miami Dolphins, and maybe I just am biased towards these these nose tackles, but Jay Tufele feels like he could fill a void. Miami had some departures on the interior of the offensive line this offseason. Tufele could just be a plug-and-play type of replacement there. You lose Devon Godshaw. Tufele could be that replacement. Also, this is a team with a bunch of picks, so sometimes once you get to the back end of it, you don't always know what to do with it. But Tufele, I think, is a worthy pick here at 102 as a replacement to Godshaw. 3 more picks to go. I promise we are almost done, folks. LA Rams, I have them going linebacker. Take your pick between Cameron McGrone or Derek Barnes. I've been going McGrone, but for the sake of doing something slightly different, let's go Derek Barnes. I like them both a lot. Barnes is just getting hot at the right time, and this is a team that doesn't have a whole lot of needs, but linebacker has been one. It's already a really good defense, but linebacker is the one spot where you're like, they need to get better there. So it feels like an obvious pick here with Barnes. On to the Ravens at 104. I'm going to give him Ardarius Washington. Rangy free safety. I'm not saying he's Earl Thomas, but I feel like he could play that role when they had Earl Thomas, that deep safety. And this is a team that uses 3 safeties a lot of the time. So I know Deshaun Elliott, they have a couple of guys that already are getting a lot of playing time at safety spots, but Ardarius Washington's better than the 104th pick in the draft, so maybe it's BPA for Baltimore. But I had to get him to stop sliding. And a team that uses 3 safeties could certainly find a role for Washington. Last pick, sticking with what I gave the Saints here at 105. Last mock, Cameron Sample. That's your Trey Hendrickson replacement. And potentially your Marcus Davenport replacement as well if he doesn't step it up this year. But that is going to do it for my final mock draft before we get to the actual draft itself tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. You'll see this video. It goes live at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, 24 hours to the dot before the draft. Hopefully you all have enjoyed. Please hit the like button if you did. It would mean the world to me. And if you're new to the channel, like sports content or excited for the draft, please consider subscribing. And comment away in the comment section. Let me know where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm crazy. And tell me where I'm right. I also like that. But let me know who your favorite team is and what direction you want to see them go in day 1 and 2. But that is going to do it for the video, everybody. Hopefully you all enjoyed. And until next time when I'm grading all the picks from the first round of the NFL draft and probably day 2 as well, my name is Tej, and I am signing off.
part of the last generation that remembers Tamagotchis.